How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today, finally, got the editing done. Going to do this contract called Burning Bridges. I'm setting off from the Heartlands map. I've got to go and inspect a bridge on the Institute map. Sounds simple in theory. I attempted to put a step pike truck on a ramped flatbed and tow it there, which was probably, in hindsight, not the simplest of ideas. So yeah, first part, just got to drive from the Heartlands garage to the Institute gateway and travel across there. So yeah, for this one, it says after that, once you inspect the bridge, that you'll get 3 concrete slabs. So they're 2-slot cargo each, so yeah, needed 6 slots of cargo. With the Dolphin, you can't have a crane, the sideboard, and the trailer, so I was considering other trucks. I wanted a truck with a bit of power, hence why I got the Dolphin. Got Dolphin and Lo4f, good old classic pair. And I just kind of thought, well, I only need to get to the bridge to use the crane, and then after that I kind of don't need it. So I figured, sod it, I'll bring a truck as well. The other part of it was I kind of figured it'd be better to have a truck with a big crane than just like the little annoying one. You can see there, the truck rolled off. I've had to edit this like just to chop it down because it was almost an hour long even already when I'd edited it, so I've just gone back through and done it again. It actually climbed up the trailer a lot easier there. You can see here, this was like kind of just before the video started. The back wheels are sort of phasing into the ramp of the flatbed, and it was doing that for 5 or 10 minutes, so that was yeah, enough of a pain in the ass. What I did when it just rolled off the trailer there, as I'm literally down the road from the garage, I just recovered it to the garage and then drove it back out, because yeah, I couldn't even be bothered readjusting the Dolphin, disconnecting the trailer, whatever. It was just quicker. And yeah, again, in hindsight, I'm glad I did. But you can see already how much the trailer's leaning. It's funny because you get various trailers. The ones with ramps on it, you've got like this one, which when you put a truck on it particularly, it's just, yeah, there's no weight in the trailer, so it goes really boaty. It probably doesn't help the fact that I've got a big crane on the truck in question as well. But yeah, just in general, considering the trailer's got ramps on it, it kind of implies that it'd kind of be alright for towing vehicles, but yeah, it just never really goes too well. And then the other trailer you can get is that big, it's like I think you can put 3 slots of cargo on it. It's called like I don't know, the big green trailer that's got ramps on it. But I remember using that in the past. Once you put the ramps down, most vehicles, it's too much of an angle, so they either scuff their like front bumper on the ramps, or once you get the front tyres up the ramps, it sort of beaches on the chassis before you can actually get up onto the trailer. Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, think they have like a decent vehicle carrying trailer that doesn't tip over. That 3-slot, like the big one, that you have to have a saddle high for, I believe. Yeah, that one's kind of awkward, but once you've got the truck on it, it sits kind of more planted. But it's only a 3-slot cargo trailer, which is a bit disappointing, and you have to have a saddle high, which now you sacrifice the sideboard bed as well. So that kind of is quite an expensive one to take, really. And yeah, this ramp flatbed, the last couple of weeks has been pretty good to me, and I'd say as far as like cargo and stuff goes, it's been alright. But yeah, you can see now it's almost tipping there. I'm surprised I'd even got this far. Going across that field as well, I was taking random bits of damage, so I got a goddamn horse on me. It's OG Lo4f chilling in a Taiga, or not OG, sorry, OG Lo4f for this map. So instead of following the road round, you can see here there's not like, there's sort of a bit of mud in that ditch there where it makes it easier to cross. Whichever dev did that, if it was on purpose, I appreciate it. And then as we're going along here, the trailer starts going and it tipped. Almost rolled all the way over, but then it kind of landed on its side. And yeah, I was already kind of sick of the trailer idea combo already. You can see just as I reversed a little bit, the trailer starts tipping over, which is pretty classic ramped flatbed. I stuck a winch on it, I was like, oh, sod it. I'll figure it out in a minute. The funny thing is, well, this was obviously, this bit of the footage I got yesterday. And even cutting along here, consider I'm in a Dolphin, which is a pretty solid vehicle. It's struggling quite a lot over it, and this is what I was saying, the mission I did the other day, called, was it River Trouble? We had to deliver 2 drilling spare parts, I think, to here, which, thinking about it, is a bit odd. To remove like trees, that was pretty much where my truck is now. But yeah, this whole river section, it's just too kind of OP and restrictive. I think you're better off just like cutting around this section regardless whether you've done the mission or not. And yeah, at this point, this is like only the beginning. Because once I get to the Institute map, it's not actually that far in theory going along the road to the bridge. So again, I was kind of like, if I can just get that truck to like the gateway and all the rest of it, it should, in theory, be plain sailing. So we've got a bit further ahead. We've got at least Dolphin and Lo4f are over the other side. I'm going to go and send this truck then to flip the step Pike, but because this is in real time, looking around like, what about Lo4f? It's like a Michael Jackson song, but Lo4f instead of elephants getting the tusks back in reverse. This is real time Lo4f action. So yeah, like I say, I'm going back across here to go and flip the bloody step Pike thing. But you can see, like, even though I've freed that river kind of crossing, it's like there's no point. As I was sniffing along here with the old Lo4f, we found like an underwater crossing. I mean, what a goddamn professional. I didn't even know this was here. It was just sheer Lo4f guidance. He knew what he was looking for. It's funny as well because the current is flowing. Well, it depends which angle I've got the camera on, but flowing the other way. I'm sure when you get to the actual river, it's going like the opposite way. And I can say now, by the way, is if you do this mission or whatever mission, if you're going to take a craned vehicle, the step Pike is an incredibly bad choice, basically, for a couple of reasons. I know, to be fair, it was on the ramped flatbed, which kind of inherently makes it tippy. It doesn't necessarily mean this vehicle in and of itself is going to be that tippy, but when it comes to flipping it over, you can see now, like, the Lo4f dug in, got himself a little Lo4f hole. The legs of this crane just keep catching into the map like crazy. It even does it later when the truck's on its wheels and everything, and they're still just catching in the ground. Like, it's ridiculous how bad it is. And overall, I believe the tyres are pretty small on this step Pike, so yeah, I'd go for something probably, I don't know, if you wanted like a similar size vehicle, even like the Voron AE, Voron D, Voron Grad. They've just got bigger tyres there, and they're like nearer 50-inch tyres, so it just sits the chassis high enough to where the legs of the bloody crane, they're the big problem, because once they hook into the terrain, they lock into place where it's not like a case of you just ripping it through the mud. They're just an absolute nightmare that, yeah, lock in. So you can see now it's looking like it's going to tip, at least roll over kind of the other way, so I could sort of keep pulling it towards the river and get it tipped, but no, it just keeps springing out. And then once it's back on its side like this, the crane legs start digging in. So yeah, there's a major bit of editing going on now. As I was ramming it, that's what she said, Lo4f, he got annoyed, he kind of bit down on the crane. But you can see he's got a bit of muscle to him, the old Lo4f. Still pushing it along, but the yeah, the game's like freaking out. I think my Lo4f spat the crane out with such venom. He flew back. But you see, it's another thing I like about the goddamn professional. He landed kind of up on his nose and at an angle where the vast majority of vehicles would just tip over to the side or tip over on the roof. But the Lo4f just waited like 10-15 seconds, fired up his engine, got back to his wheels, drove at it again, kind of, I don't know, I think the Lo4f's playing a game of the floor is lava, just to be safe. I mean, this is what I was trying to do, was kind of tuck myself under the wheel to flip it over the other way, which, to be fair, at this point, I suppose doesn't seem like it'd do a lot, but I was heading towards this river because I wanted to try and wedge the crane legs on these rocks that are in the river, just so hopefully it'd dig its way in a little bit and I'd actually have a chance of flipping it, rather than, as you can see, it's like it either just slides along kind of on its side slash roof of the crane, or it's on its side and then the crane legs dig in. So I got it flipped that way, which now means I can do a winch from that kind of to the other side of those rocks. And again, there's quite a bit of editing going on at this point. This was definitely taking a lot longer. You know, it's getting serious when the old Lo4f's like face first in the water. So just for my own peace of mind, I wanted to wedge the loaf behind these rocks, and as you can see, this is like, well, I say full winch power, say they're like a pinch of salt, because the winches are pretty weak and terrible these days compared to what they used to be. It was so locked in place that it wouldn't even move when my loaf was kind of wedged behind the rock, so yeah, pretty stuck. So I got back out the water, kind of went around to the other side, was now winching to a tree that's in the water near where my loaf was. I think what was going on is the crane was hooked on one of those dead trees that are lying at the side. So took a good bloody while. Definitely got his victory haul in that one. Yeah, just kept pushing it forward until it tipped off the rocks like this, which, like I said, originally I was hoping the crane legs would like catch in the rock and it'd flip a bit earlier, but as that didn't happen, it's kind of plan B, shove it up the rock and just let it kind of roll off the other side of it. Which at least meant, even though I ended up sending in the loaf because he's goddamn professional, but the crane was tipped enough to where the engine of the step pike would start, and because that rock was in the way, it can't really just slide sideways as easily and just keep flopping back to like the crane being like on the ground rather than the truck rolling back to its wheels. But yeah, it's a goddamn horse. He got there in the end. Even towed it out of this river because I kind of figured it'd probably struggle to be doing it on its own. And at this point, I was already kind of rolling my eyes a bit at maybe it wasn't the best choice. Although what I will say is when you actually get the concrete slabs, having a big crane was quite handy, so I'm not strictly against that, but I don't know. Maybe if I was going to do it again, what I'd probably do, I'm going to have to take the ramped flatbed and all that stuff, but I don't know. I'd just get a vehicle with a big crane on and either tow it behind the ramped flatbed or use that as the lead vehicle and just kind of, you know, leave the ramped flatbed empty. So, got the truck back on the trailer, got it packed. As you can see, already it was trying to tip over. And at this point, I was surprised the Dolphin was going a bit slow getting up here. Well, you can tell overall, since like back in the day, old school Dolphin was an absolute machine, but they keep, one, I think, slowly nerfing the engines and everything. Every phase, they seem to just take the edge off everything. But I also think, yeah, with this phase in particular, they've definitely ruined the gearboxes in quite a substantial way. Which seems like another way to kind of overall nerf the trucks in the game so everything takes a little bit longer. Which I don't really think they needed to do, specifically with this phase, because they have added like a bloody lot of content to this phase. I've done quite a few videos, and I scrolled through earlier, and I've still got 20 contracts to do, and then like various missions across the different maps, so yeah, there's still a lot going on. So there, the Dolphin kind of got bogged down in the mud and wouldn't even go forward, so let's go and get the goddamn horse again. And then use him there as like a mobile winch point. Which, yeah, reason number, who knows, to get yourself a loaf. I mean, how many times has he saved me already? Well, that red loaf was just sat there from the mission I did the other day when I was with the 114 SD. I obviously could have jumped this loaf out the sideboard, but again, I get pretty attached. Pretty sentimental. I was like, nope, I want to keep him in there. That's what she said. So, yeah, I was using red loaf, but loaf's a loaf. So, here's where the next problems come. See if you can spot tree stumps. Instead of, it wasn't really that cutting through the mud there that was the issue, it was more that it looks like it leans a lot, and I kind of figured this truck, the step pike, could tip off the trailer again. But yeah, as I was cutting through, I was no, like, oh god, I've hit a tree stump. And one of the bad things with this truck is the tree stump, it always goes under your truck, gets past the first axle, gets caught on the second axle, but then when you reverse, it suddenly gets caught on the first axle. It'd be nice, at least if it caught the first axle on your way over it, you could just reverse straight out, but yeah, that'd be far too simple for the game. So, spent the next, I don't know, half an hour levering around on the different tree stumps and stuff, just to try and unwedge myself from the bloody tree stump. Got the trailer attached, did a winch from like the middle of the trailer, I think, to the tree stump next to me, which I think was the one I was just caught on. I moved, what, a yard forward or something. The trailer started to tip pretty violently, so again, sending the goddamn professional. just there as a little wedge, so it helps stopping the trailer from tipping. And again, I was there for another half an hour odd at least. At this point I was just, yeah, getting pretty... I don't like tree stumps in this game because there's no counter to them. They're just a complete pain in the arse that you unrealistically lock on them as if it's like actually attached to your axle and chained up to it and everything. And I had a Zix and a goddamn hot, funnily enough, same colour loafs, colour coded loafs. Yeah, it was just on the other side of those trees you can see in the top right hand corner, so it was just a quick little drive. And yeah, at this point I was like, fuck him, I'm not messing around anymore. Just gonna ram it off there. I believe that finally got it, because that's the thing, it locks between the first and the second axle, so you can't really go forward or reverse. You need to push the truck sideways. But the winches are so gutless these days that it doesn't really pull the front end of your truck sideways, hence why, yeah, sent in the Zix just to ram the whole truck sideways, which worked out pretty nicely. And then now finally started going forward, almost getting caught on a tree stump again, but now for whatever reason, even though the truck is still packed on the trailer, it's kind of slipped half off the side, so it's, yeah, it's already tipping even worse than it normally would. And again, you can see the, I think particularly this gearbox, it jumps into second, then it goes back down to first, but then you have like a 2 or 3 second window where there's no power being applied, and it just loses all its guts and momentum, and yeah, not too great. But I could have gone for the off-road gearbox, but it's high gear that I do love me high gear. So the truck finally tipped off the trailer. To be honest, at this point already, I mean, we're still technically in like the early stages of the mission, although at this point yesterday it had been obviously hours and hours and hours just to get from the garage to here. Started going up the trailer, it was doing the same thing where the tyres were sinking into the ramps and it just kept flicking me off to either side of the trailer. Now I was stuck. As soon as I reversed that step pike off, yeah, like someone said the other week, step pike's like, I'm stuck, step bro. Give that fucking truck a washing machine, make a porno out of it. That's probably all it'd be good for. Yeah, at this point I was just sick of that truck, so drop the hammer, take Dolphin and Lo4f, just at least get to the gateway, the Institute gateway. Yeah, like that step pike, just being on the floor now, not even rolled over or anything, the crane legs were just catching into the floor, so I couldn't even drive forward, back. It was sort of like being stuck on another bloody tree stump. Which I thought I got stuck on 2 tree stumps, but when I was editing tonight, I believe it was 3 in the end. I think I got off the first 2 by myself, and then it was the third one that I sent the Zix in for. So once you wind up in high gear though, which is why mainly, as I say, I take the high range gearbox, because it gets a bit awkward like once you're going too slow and all the rest of it, but it's too good in the high gear. So finally made it to here, and again a bit more editing going on just to keep the video a bit shorter, and I ran out of like 50 clips in this. Yeah, I ran out of that quite quickly as well, so I had to delete a few clips within the video just to kind of shorten the amount. It's Share Factory on the PlayStation. It's handy in some ways, but it's obviously a very simple editing system. For some reason, once you've got 50 clips, it won't let you have any more. Yeah, long story short, the step pike thing kept getting stuck, so I just yoinked it with a Zix all the way to the gateway, packed it on the trailer, transferred over to the Institute map, and then as you can see now, I'm going to follow the road along, because what I would normally do is probably around now start swerving off to the right and kind of going essentially as the crow flies kind of towards where that bridge is, but yeah, this trailer had just been such a dick already by this point. But I kind of figured if I follow the roads, then in theory it shouldn't tip. And my plan B, if it did tip at this point, I was just going to carry on with the Dolphin and Lo4f and trailer and everything, get to the bridge, and then just drive the step pike there by itself. See, places like that though, maybe that's probably not the best example, but I'd still say back in the day, normally the Dolphin would have stayed in high gear all the way through there. See there though, it must have gone into second, back to first, and then it's just like there's a you have to wait a few seconds for it to apply the power again in first gear, which is another reason, even though the gearboxes are even worse on this phase than they used to be, they've always seemed to have tampered with them a bit like that. It's another reason why I like high gear, because the speed I'm travelling now is a nice speed. It's not too fast and crazy, but it's not slow. You feel like you're actually getting somewhere. But you have all the power and torque that you've sort of paid for, like what the truck's got. In auto, even if you're travelling along, yeah, just every now and then, all the time really, when the truck or the gearbox feels like it just randomly jumps it back into first, you lose all your speed. And then yeah, the fact that they've put like this 3-second window of no power as well once it does that, it's that's what I've always liked about a high gear. It just cuts out all that crap. You get the accelerator works like an accelerator, even with the stalling thing. That's strictly speaking in real life, you could stall it once you like completely run out of speed, so it's not as unrealistic as you're flooring it, but the game's just decided you're only getting like 10% of the torque that you normally have. Yeah, this pipe in the road as well, I've said it before, I've drove over this a few times, it's a little bit of an awkward one. It seems like the trailer, for a couple of seconds there, sort of got anchored. I've said it before, the front wheels on that ramped flatbed, they kind of dig into stuff rather than roll over it. I think I let go of the winch and started winching it again, and thankfully it just did kind of pop over the, start to climb over it then. Oh yeah, and by the way, when I transferred to the through the gateway to the Institute map, now this footage is what I got tonight, but everything leading up to like that gateway was yesterday, and that's hence why I'm glad I did in the end, because yeah, the editing on this took like probably longer than doing a review video these days, because at least with a review video I kind of know which bits already I'm going to clip out and all the rest of it. But yeah, this I just had to go through a lot of footage of things going very wrong, and just like kind of choosing the bits I want to kind of tell the story as it goes along, I suppose. So yeah, once I got here to the bridge, I hit like the first blue square, which it's saying inspect the bridge, so you got to like visit each side of it. At that point when I hit that, like no concrete slabs have appeared at this point, which I was kind of thinking, as I've already activated the mission and all the rest of it, I'd probably see where the concrete slabs are. At this point I was thinking, oh, if this mission ends up doing like when I get to this other blue square, if it ends up just putting the concrete slabs somewhere else, meaning I possibly didn't need to bring the crane, I'd yeah, be pretty unimpressed to say the least. Yeah, you can see again the crane tipped off, but at this point at least I've made it to the bridge, so I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Sick and tired of that truck tipping off, to be honest. And then yeah, crawl my way through that river, which for some reason that river's fairly restrictive as well. Not too bad. Again, the Dolphin's a pretty decent vehicle to cross it. So yeah, when you get to that second inspection square thing, the concrete slabs appear. As you can see, there's like one kind of in no man's land on the other side, and then two on this side. So I was umming and ahhing for a minute. Like I thought, anyway, I'm gonna have to go back to flip this bloody step pike back. But it was probably for the best, because the step pike's so crap that I was thinking if I left the Dolphin in the trailer on the other side where I just was a second ago, I'd have to collect each of these cargoes and then drive it over the other side with a step pike, which I figured would be more difficult and more of a pain in the arse than just bringing the Dolphin back this way. And at least like I'm next to the cargo, so it's less, yeah, driving for this bloody step pike truck. Flipped it back to its wheels. I'm surprised. Well, it sort of shows you there though. The vehicle itself isn't inherently too tippy. Otherwise it would have just tipped straight back off the trailer like that. It's just more once you've packed something on top of this ramped flatbed, it's too boaty, there's too much weight high up. And I did try to grab that piece of cargo from where the truck was on the other side of the ramped flatbed. Even though the circle was within reach of the cargo, it wouldn't let me have it, so I had to reverse the truck up, kind of go to this left hand side of the trailer. Yeah, I've got the first piece of cargo. Now I've just drove forward a bit again, a little bit of editing to kind of keep the video a little bit shorter and sweeter than it otherwise would be. Grab both of them, and then now basically my the step pike's kind of almost out of fuel. I was just kind of, yeah, working out who's getting what fuel. And I needed the loaf out the sideboard anyway, because I was going to get this third piece of cargo. So I started driving the step pike like over the river. You can see it's the crane legs. They just, if you're on anything other than like a road, they sit so close to the road that any kind of little dip or anything, and they just catch in the ground. And again, it's not even like where you just need the power to scrape them through the mud. They just pretty much dig into the ground, and then yeah, that's kind of the end of it. Sent in the loaf though. He knows what he's doing. It's not his first time. If the loaf digs a loaf hole, he uses the game's crazy mechanics against it. I forgot actually, I've got the roof rack on top of the step pike. I never even dipped into that, I don't think. I kind of forgot it was even on there. I'm not even sure how much. It doesn't look like it's got a hell of a lot on there, but so something's better than nothing. Although repairs wise, I didn't really need repairs for the most part in the end. It was more fuel being the big thing on this mission. So, got the truck to the other side of the map, and then I was hoping if I can just reverse to this part of the bridge where, like, what's left of it, and spin the crane round, it's going to have the most chance of reaching without me having to go down the bank and all the rest of it. Going down the bank in and of itself isn't the end of the world, but again, with the crane legs on this thing, as soon as you're on uneven ground, I didn't want them digging in. And at this point, I was thinking, oh yes, I can see the end of the mission already. Got this round the right way, I'm just going to have to drive forward and put it in. Yeah, that's what she said. And then, it's my fault. I was still in reverse, not forward, so I went to accelerate forward, obviously. Yeah, flew back, quickly disconnected the cargo and just fired a panic winch out, and I managed to grab that telegraph pole thing. But my back ends kind of fell off the bridge, and again, these bloody crane legs are like digging in, so I now can't get back up. Well, kept pulling it, kind of forcing it. Did restore the crane again, which got that leg up. But I don't know, I think I had the handbrake on, so even when I accelerated, it obviously didn't go anywhere. I started tipping back, kind of slipped the crane leg back down, and it's just kind of shoving me over this way. Started tipping, firing panic winches and all sorts. I mean, again, to the vehicle's credit, even though I doubt I'll ever be using a crane on it again, it doesn't just flop over. Now I've kind of fell off the side of that bridge, so the truck itself doesn't seem to be inherently tippy. But because it's got smaller tyres, I can't remember off the top of my head, but is it like 43-inch tyres on it or something? They just, yeah, it doesn't sit the chassis high enough to where those legs don't become an issue, because obviously, like, it's just a generic crane platform that they put on the back of each truck. And this is just one of those trucks that sits too low, really. Even though it's theoretically, like, not a bad truck. And thankfully, like I say, getting this part of the footage was tonight. So I was, by the end of yesterday, or getting to the Institute map, I was just, yeah, it was driving me mad. Not like to that point, but I was just kind of, yeah, rolling my eyes thinking, okay, I'm getting sick of, like, again, it's one of those things where I was saying it's a good example of, like, the game's questionable mechanics that really were not making the mission fun. Like the when the step pike tipped near the river crossing and it was just glitching into the map, that's not really ideal. The trailer's a bit floppy, then getting stuck on the tree stumps, which I just, yeah, I really don't like them in this game, because like I say, they just kill the fun. There's no, like, fun, smart way to get around them or anything. They're just a complete pain in the arse, like a complete mood killer and pace killer, and yeah, they're like just annoying. But yeah, tonight when I fell off the bridge because I left it in reverse, I was kind of, I did more see the funny side of that, to be fair. In this bridge, I forgot that I've built this bridge on my mod playthrough. I haven't actually got it done yet on this one. So, to go old school, cross the river that way. And to be fair, again, Dolphin, I mean, relatively speaking, it's still a very solid truck. Don't really regret bringing a Dolphin for this one. It was I think this mission would have been a bit of a nightmare using like one of the weaker vehicles in the game. This goddamn horse. Looks like I've already pillaged the fuel off that one though. It's funny as well because now I've only got cargo on the trailer. It's a pleasure driving cargo versus a bloody vehicle on the back of it. And you see, always some mission long ago, I was here with the, is it the Zix? But it had a maintenance trailer with it. Funny enough, that was the mission where I had to get this step Pike to originally like fix it up and everything. Yeah, so I had a maintenance trailer there, which is basically 2,000 fuel sat there. So quick pit stop. I filled everything back up. I think in the end, I filled the Dolphin to 200, the Lo4f to 80, and then also put 120 back into the roof rack as well. Oh yeah, and if I didn't put the footage in, as you can see, it's a goddamn horse. He's still with me. I, in theory, was going to leave him at the bridge where I got those concrete slabs from, but just separation anxiety, so I had to bring him with me. See, the other thing though, he is like an extra fuel tank, if nothing else. Like when I just pulled over to that maintenance trailer, I filled the Dolphin up, and I could only have obviously 200 litres in the Dolphin, so there's no other like extra option. But then with the Lo4f, between the fuel tank and the roof rack is like another 200 fuel, so I've basically got 2 Dolphin fuel tanks worth of fuel on me now. Then as I'm going along now, I thought, right, I'll try and cut between these slabs instead of smashing the suspension. Right, I think I got whip Lo4f. Probably got a pretty sore neck, if he's got a neck. But yeah, as you can see, I sort of beached. I think the front bumper kind of dug in. Credit to the Lo4f, he hung on like a goddamn professional. He wasn't letting go of that cargo. Thankfully I didn't tip or anything like that, even though the trailer kind of flew at my arse pretty quickly. We stayed level, got out of there. It wasn't even like that bad in the end. It was just every now and then the Dolphin has got his front bumper catches a little bit, and yeah, got me then. But you see, I knew this kind of once I got to the bridge and got the crane stuff out of the way, I knew I wouldn't have to have the vehicle on the back of the ramped flatbed. And for these parts, it's kind of like mainly going along main roads. And again, once you get the Dolphin into high gear, you get, yeah, pretty decent pace going for the, considering like it's got a small fuel tank. And once you're actually wound up in high gear, I've said it before, but I can't really see it quite now because it shrinks the screen when I'm recording, but in high gear, like the most it'll use is say like in the low 20s litres a minute, but once you're actually up to speed, it's sitting, it should be around like, I can see it's less than 10 litres a minute. And yeah, for the speed you're actually going, you can get some pretty good distance off that 200 litres of fuel. And it's a fairly heavy cargo load in the end. Even this Dolphin was like, you could feel it, that I'm towing a ramped flatbed and 3 lots of concrete slabs and all the rest of it. It's fairly heavy cargo. And that was one reason why I brought the step Pike instead of having a little crane. Yeah, now I'm on the Harvest Court map. I'm just going to go down here, cut across the river, and then follow the road round to the airport. In theory, I probably could cut up there, but I thought I'll eyeball it when I'm going past. We'll see. But yeah, just for the most part, I kind of drew the proper way. So finally, we're on the home straight. I don't know what's going on outside, but for that last hour there's been traffic, and like, as far as the eye can see past my house. Those signs, they couldn't handle seeing a goddamn professional riding a Dolphin like this. And yeah, it gets pretty boggy along here as well. And you can see there, like, there's a good example of, it was going to say stalling in high gear, so I dropped it down to auto, but because it was in first gear and it just doesn't apply that power for a few seconds, it's long enough that where you just stop, and then it kind of doesn't want to feed the power back in. I just had to go down into the low range and then back into auto, and it's fine. But yeah, that's just another sign of like the broken gearboxes these days, because Dolphin out of pretty much every vehicle was that was the reason why like Dolphin and Lo4f was the original pair for me, because the Dolphin just never really ran out of power like that at all. I was eyeballing because there's a log bridge you're supposed to build over here, and I remember when I drove over here the other week, and I kind of got stuck a little bit going like down this channel between these logs now. So I was eyeballing there, shall I go round to the right or the left? And then at the last minute I was kind of like, well, I'll just send it through, because at this point I was sort of curious to see if the Dolphin could actually get through here under its own steam, or if I'd need to start firing out some winches and stuff. And yeah, to be fair, I'm glad I did. It's a little bit on the slow side, but like I said, the other vehicle, whatever it was I brought through here, kind of got stuck, so it's nice to see they've not completely broke the Dolphin. And yeah, made it through there with no issues in the end, really. Well, we'll get round to building that log bridge one day, but chances are I probably would have completed most of the missions by the time I get round to it. Like I said, these days as well, it'd be nice if you could actually have a blue crane, because you can see the gap between the cab and the sideboard. But I think the little crane legs on the blue crane would kind of stick out where the second axle is on the Dolphin. There's the gearbox doing the same thing again. So it shoves the sideboard back so far so the crane sits behind that second axle, and then yeah, you can't have all three, like the crane, the sideboard and the trailer. But being that the concrete slabs are pretty heavy as well, that's the thing. Like, I knew it, even if I picked a different truck and I could have like the magic trinity of the crane, the sideboard and the trailer, the blue crane, or yeah, most likely would have took a Russian vehicle. It's just so weak that it would have been a complete pain in the arse getting the slabs. So in that sense, I don't regret taking a vehicle with me that's got a big crane. But yeah, like I said, if I was going to do it again, I probably wouldn't waste my time putting it on the back of the trailer and all the rest of it. And certainly if I did, I'd pick a vehicle with bigger wheels, so at least the big crane legs actually sit high enough so they don't just keep digging into the map. Even when I was editing this tonight, I was using one remote, but it's the one where it keeps slightly pressing left on like the right analog stick, which was a pain in the ass when I'm trying to scroll through the footage to do the editing. So then I switched to my other remote, where down on the D-pad's pretty much broke, and then that one ran out of battery, so I had to go back to this remote. Like, yeah, editing. What time is it now? I'm getting nearly 8 o'clock. I think I started, well, getting the rest of the footage as well, but I started about 1 in the morning, so by the time I've got this uploaded and all the rest of it, it's yeah, probably about 9 or 10 hours. Well, I don't know, no, it's yeah, say about 8 or 9 hours tonight, and then yesterday must have been, God knows, quite a while. Certainly hours of messing around with those bloody tree stump log things. So we made it this far, which, again, to be fair, Dolphins are doing pretty well. Well, I said, you know, I forgot that I kind of got beached on this bit for a second. Thankfully, whatever little bush is in front, usually they pop out of the ground with like no resistance whatsoever, but must be loaf training. It's like a bush whisperer. It's telling it, we need you. But yeah, winch that bush. It kind of looks like it's ripped out of the ground now. But anyway, bumped my wheels up the rock, so we're good to go. So in this river crossing, it's more how I think it should be. It's a little bit awkward with the rocks and all the rest of it, but it's actually quite fair as far as your grip in the mud goes. Like, it's not just been dialed up to like OP death mud or something. They've just made the actual terrain itself quite tricky, so yeah, again, even though it can be just as awkward to cross, at least it feels a bit more natural. The Dolphin, it thought about doing it then, dropped down into first gear, but I didn't actually quite have to drop it into the low range at that point. And it's one of them, especially on this phase, like now, in certain areas, there's like, having an off-road gearbox would help because you got the 3 low range gears, but yeah, then you can see now, once I've got over the brow of that hill, just to be able to stick it in the proper high gear, high range gearbox, high range. you can keep your foot down, but I already knew there it was about to kick me out of high, which, once you were wound up to speed in the Dolphin back in the day, it's pretty rare it'd ever try and kick you out of it unless you hit a tree or something like that forcibly stopped you dead. Whereas, yeah, it's not what it used to be. But like I said, relatively speaking, it's still a pretty damn solid vehicle. Taking a bit of random damage there. I was curious at this point because you can see my fuel's getting pretty low. That's part of the reason I was trying to keep it pinned and go as smoothly as possible, because I wanted to see if I could actually make it to the airport without having to use any more fuel. Obviously, because I've got the goddamn horse in me, I've got like a whole fuel tank's worth again. Again, apologies, I think there's a couple of little tiny glitches going on in the footage there. We're close, but it's bits like this where you're not getting a whole lot of speed for your fuel money, really. Still using probably up in like the 20 litres a minute, but yeah, as soon as I can get it into high gear. And to be fair, I probably should have just seen if I could have made it to the square I got to go to, but I just remembered at the last second I did unlock a refueling station here, so swung it around. I was on about 7 litres a minute. Oh, sorry, 7 litres left, so I probably would have started stalling and spluttering about now. But I only had to make it here. Which, funnily enough, is another goddamn horse, Dolphin and Lo4f. Was from a previous mission. And then we made it. So, unpack the Lo4f, just... It's not done it for a while, but every now and then it can be a bit weird when you're unloading the cargo, but there's a Lo4f stuck to it. Unload that one, and the third one, you actually get a little animation. Some weird floating rocks. Some brand new slabs. Which I'm guessing they must have planned this mission quite early on if we had an animation. Was it about 13,000 money-wise? Again, I suppose in that sense it wasn't worth it with the amount of hassle with that step pike thing, but yeah, overall not too bad. You unlock this warehouse which has got medium planks, vehicle spare parts and service spare parts, and yeah, which I assume will come in handy on one mission or another in the future. But anyway, that's about it for today. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a Lo4f because he did save my bacon about 50 times during this, and yeah, I'll be back soon.